I know the Pistons won Game 7, or Game 6 rather, but for the back half of this series, for the majority, the Cavs have pretty much dominated the series, starting with Donovan Mitchell. And that was the same in this game. They controlled the game rather, right from the start. I think this was probably their best performance, the Cavs, in the playoffs so far. And it really starts with Donovan Mitchell, right? The beauty of the Cavs is they have that secondary star in James Harden, unlike the Detroit Pistons. But you need your stars to show up. Cade Cunningham, for the most part, showed up for the Pistons. He just got no help from anybody else. And the Cavs luckily got help, but it starts with Donovan Mitchell, right? In a huge bounce back game from Game 6 where he just didn't have it going. He was consistently attacking the rim, getting great looks against Jalen Duren or Paul Reed, or whoever else they put out there, creating easy shots for his teammates. Such a great player, and Max Strus was available for this game. You really needed him, right? The fact that, when Duncan Robinson was out for the Pistons lost. When Max Strus was out for the Cavs lost. The ability to have a corner knockdown three-point shooter in this series made the difference. And Duncan Robinson was available in Game 7, but Max Strus was available as well. And Max Strus was huge in this game, receiving kick-out passes from Donovan Mitchell and just knocking them down. Right? And then the beauty about the Cavs, at least in this series, is, and, take it with a grain of salt, the Pistons were struggling offensively, but the ability to have good offense for the Cavs allow them to play good defense because they're not trying to play defense in scramble mode in transition off of a loose turnover from a James Harden or a Donovan Mitchell, or a defensive rebound from Asar Thompson or Cade Cunningham, and they get out and running, right? If you can put the ball in the basket, you are going to have great success defending, even if you're not a great half-court, great defense, right? The Cavs are not a great defense. Donovan Mitchell and James Harden are not the greatest defenders, right? James Harden's a little bit better than Donovan Mitchell is, but they're not great as a team. But the Pistons are a terrible offensive team when Cade Cunningham's the only guy going, right? When they have other guys going, they are a great offense to watch, but more often than not, it feels like it's a one-man show with Cade Cunningham, and he has to get a secondary star. We'll talk about that later. But when it's just Cade Cunningham, if you're not letting Asar Thompson, out-physical you, out-sprint you in transition, he's not going to be a great offensive player. He's not going to make three-point shots. He's not going to take three-point shots, right? It makes it much easier. I'm not saying that the Pistons are, atrocious offensively, but it makes it much easier for an already, weaker defending team in the Cavs to just step it up a level because you're not, in scramble mode every single possession. And that's what was happening in the first two games of the series, right? Live turnovers from James Harden allow the Pistons just to get out and get easy buckets in a place where they otherwise would struggle scoring, right? That's why they got out to a 2-0 lead in this series, right? And then the turnovers, James Harden started to, dial it up a little bit. He was aggressive, but he was not careless with the ball. He was making good decisions. Vintage James Harden, when he was at his best in the regular season, we started to see in these middle games, and the Cavs come all the way back. They take a 3-2 lead. Game 6, the Pistons have an answer, and then Game 7, ultimately, the offensive production wins out. Right, and then Jaren Allen and Evan Mobley, they protected the paint. Much better energy from Game 6. It felt like, in Game 6, they were sort of, a little, should I say, lackluster. They were very casual about it. They did not, put an emphasis on rebounding, an emphasis on protecting the rim. They let Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, Paul Reed, whoever it may be, get to the rim. Jalen Duren included. And then in this game, they ramped it up. They dialed it up, you could say, and they were pretty dominant in the paint. But ultimately, this series came down to who could make an open three Sam Merrill was big for the Cavs. You just go down the Cavs list, right? And you have Donovan Mitchell, you have James Harden, you have Max Strus, you have Sam Merrill, you have Evan Mobley. All those guys are capable of making a three on a, I'm not gonna say more than consistent rate, but at a playable rate. Whereas you look at the Pistons side, and right, Cade Cunningham doesn't like to take threes. He can, but he's a weaker 3-point shooter. And then you go into their list, and Duncan Robinson can hit threes. Tobias Harris is a little bit weaker, but Jalen Duren's not going to hit a three. Asar Thompson's not going to hit a three. Neither of those guys are going to even attempt threes compared to the other guys. So just you look at the Pistons, and they just don't have the offense to hold up with a team that was rolling offensively in Game 7. And this game quickly became a blowout in the second quarter. Cavs hold on for the rest of the game. Pretty much a garbage fourth quarter. And then, I want to talk about Cade Cunningham because, listen, Cade Cunningham, he's had a great playoff series. He did not have a great Game 7 here. He had a slow start. He didn't come out with that aggressive, physicality and drives to the basket that I think he needed to come out with. He had to set the tone before the Donovan Mitchell and James Hardens could, because he's so limited in terms of what he has on the table in terms of teammates that can make shots. So it had to be Cade Cunningham. And, give a lot of credit to Cade Cunningham. He's been fantastic in these playoffs. But I just think he just needed to be more aggressively. Had a great, strong playoff run overall, scoring, 25 to 30 points a night. That's fantastic. He's going to be he is a player that can carry a championship team. But he needs someone else with him. And I don't know, who you go out and get, who you trade for. They're not going to have a great draft pick. But the offense struggled badly, as we thought it would throughout the regular season. We were saying, does this team have enough? Does this team have enough? And ultimately, they don't. They're able to get by an Orlando Magic team that is struggled offensively as well. And quite frankly, Cade Cunningham was just better than Paul Banchero. But then you get into this series, and you're getting matched pretty evenly with the production of Donovan Mitchell. And then it comes down to who's next in line. And I could name 4, probably 2 or 3 actually players on the Cavs side before I get to the next player for the Pistons. And that's ultimately what makes the difference, right? The role players won, right? We always talk about, your stars win you a game. Can your coach win you a game? Can your stars win you 2 games? And can your role players, your secondary stars, your role players win you a game, right? That's how you get to the 4 wins. And I wouldn't say that the Cavs role players won them the game, but the Pistons role players lost them the game. So ultimately, it came down to the role players for the Cavs outperforming the role players of the Pistons.